Hi there. In this video session, I would be discussing about how to prepare for CFA Level 2 exams. Now, we still have a few months left for the exams, and I think this is a good time to sit back and strategize and kind of have a nice plan on how you're going to approach the subjects and the exam. In general, couple of very high level points. CFL level 1 exams was more knowledge oriented. It was more about whether you know that formula of fiscal multiplier or money multiplier. Whereas on the other hand, CFL level 2 is a totally different ball game. So in level 2, they are going to test you on A, your ability to know stuff, of course that's important, but B, whether you can apply that into a particular situation. So therefore, level 2 requires a more conceptual perspective or conceptual approach to the subject. And I'm saying this because I've seen a lot of level 1 candidates or a lot of candidates who managed to pass level 1 struggle at level 2. And what kind of candidates are these? These are the ones who kind of cram through the material, they just memorize the stuff, practice a lot of question without understanding, got the heck of, how do you approach this question in this fashion, this question in this fashion. That's not going to work in level 2. We have to drill down to the concepts. And in this video, I would be helping you with 3 parts. First, we'll have discussion on the sequence. We'll discuss about which subject to do first, second. Then we will discuss about the actual approach. For example, let's say if you have to start studying FRA now, how do we do it? What do I do first? What do I do second? And then finally, some really valuable tips that might come in handy during your preparation cycle. All right, so let's get started. First, what you see on the screen now is the list of 10 subjects. And how I see of them, I've kind of broken them down into different blocks. So, how do you start your preparation? So, I recommend that you start your preparation with this particular block, which is all the assets except equity, and I'll explain why equity is not there, but fixed income, derivatives, AI. Within this, I would propose starting derivatives first, even though it's like slightly different on my screen, but derivatives first and then fixed income and then alternative investments. Now the reason why I propose this is because I think that even for level 3 actually there is a good continuity in the asset classes. So level 2 fixed income builds on to level 1 fixed income, and so is the case with level 3. Therefore, I think it's more organic to start here. So you start with derivatives, you start with fixed income, AI. Sizable chunk in terms of weight that would be tested on the exam, and a very deterministic type of process. So therefore, it would be easier to learn. Once you're done with this block, then I propose that you come on to the core of the level 2, which has the largest weight, which is so I'm going to rank them here, which is FRA, corporate finance and equity. Within them, I propose, I don't know why I wrote them this way. I propose starting with CF first and then FRA and then equity. Or you could do CF, equity, FRA, but make sure you start with the CF first because then there is this kind of good linkage between the subjects. And then you can do the third block, which is quant, portfolio management and economics. Okay, so roughly in terms of approaching subjects, you can think of your curriculum as in these 3 blocks. And of course, all of us know what ethics is, so we kind of cannot underestimate that stuff. So that is something that you keep on doing throughout your preparation cycle. I've seen most of the candidates kind of keep it for the last 1 month or a few days. Don't do it. Like start doing it in bits and pieces. It always helps. And of course, I'll talk about the subject-wise strategy in maybe subsequent sessions. But that's roughly about your sequence, right? So block 1, block 2, block 3 and ethics, and more or less that's how we approach things. Then second part of this session on how do you approach a particular subject. So if you have to start with FRA or if you have to start with, let's say, derivatives, what do you do? So your learning is, or your approach is broken down into 3 parts. First, we learn, practice and revise, right? Straightforward. Now, how do you learn? So here is what I propose. I think the most organic way to learn is to watch video lectures, because then that way, someone is helping you understand that process in smaller bits. And while you're watching the videos, keep the curriculum open in front of you. right? So most of you or many of you prepared through private publications notes, many of you prepared through our juice notes, and they are useful but not in the learning phase. So in the learning phase, you start with videos and you keep the CFA curriculum in front of you, right? So you watch, and a lot of our videos are broken down into learning outcomes. So you watch a learning outcome A and then you read the parts of the curriculum. Now if you're short of time and if you feel that I don't want to read curriculum, that may work if while reading you also emphasize on those blue boxes or those examples, right? So even if you just do videos and blue boxes right after that, I think that combination will also do magic. And I think this is a good reinforcement of concept at the time you're learning. So this is going to work. Once this part is over, then you go on to your practice. Your top priority practice in the first round is of course doing curriculum, end of the chapter questions. Extremely beautiful, a good representation of what you see on the exams. You have to do them maybe multiple times. Then you do all our monthly tests. Okay, and of course I'm not considering the last 1 month in this, where we will also have mocks. But what I'll be doing this season is for both classroom and online candidates, we would be giving you monthly targets. And based on those monthly targets, we would be conducting monthly tests, right? So you and it always helps if you have a benchmark to hit, you're more aggressive with your preparation. So we'll give you the dates on which tests would be conducted. You start preparing for them. We'll give you the syllabus. You start preparing, take the test, then move on to next subject, right? So that's your practice part. And then how do you revise? So your primary source of revision is going to be the juice notes that we provide you. Now juice notes, we have kind of summarized the entire curriculum in graphical and in flowcharts, in like nice looking colorful graphs and flowcharts. So you do the juice notes, and while you were learning and going through the videos and curriculum, you felt that there is point X that I would like to have as a part of my revision material. You can make use of the post-its. Okay, so just those sticky notes, so write it on them, put it on your post-its and move on instead of making your separate notes. So learn, practice, revise. That's roughly the approach that we would be following. And then this was our section 2, and then now we will discuss, I would talk about some really useful tips. So I have 10 on them, actually 11. The first one, or the 0th one, is revise level 1 stuff well before you start with level 2. Now I wouldn't recommend revising all the 10 subjects of level 1 before starting level 2. You'll end up spending months doing that. But what I propose is, if you're starting out with quant, okay, then make sure you understand the broader areas of level 1 curriculum well. For example, at level 2 we would be doing a lot of hypothesis testing, especially on regression slopes and time series, autocorrelation type of stuff. Now, if you're good at level 1 hypothesis, level 2 hypothesis automatically becomes easier. Otherwise, it's too much of work. Then the same concepts like type 1 error, type 2 error, those p-values, everything gets repeated. So it really pays off if you spend some time, work on your level 1 concepts and then come. What we've done is, for all the subscribers, we have created a video series called Essential Concepts from CFA Level 1. And almost for every subject, you would be able to access these videos. So you need not sweat through reading through the books again. Just watch the video and start with level 2 content. Second, I'm going to recommend you using a layer approach to study. Now what do I mean by this? A lot of level 2 material is kind of interconnected. Okay, so there is a good linkage between what you do in FRA and equity. Also good linkage between derivatives and fixed income. So therefore, what I propose, one way of handling it is, you go a little fast with your first round of learning. Maybe just go through the video material and finish it fast. Then do another round of all the 10 subjects and maybe do another round. And then you kind of do your studies in these layers. What this does is, it helps you identify those interconnection and linkages, and it kind of gives you a much broader perspective of what the curriculum is. So it's not for everyone, because I know there are some candidates who want to who cannot move on before totally understanding what the concept is, and I think that's fine. But those of you who are okay with decent 60% understanding in the first round and then a marginal 10%, 20% increase again, layer approach works. Next tip, horizontal revisions. Now what is horizontal revision? During your revision step, what people do is, I've seen that They take one topic and they kind of revise it from left to right and maybe even practice question. Instead, what I propose is that you practice questions horizontally. So let us say you have done 7 readings so far, okay, and you have 30 minutes to revise. So what you can do is you can pick up some random number of questions from CFA curriculum. Let us say a number 2 and number 5, all right. And then what you're going to do is you're going to solve question number 2 and question number 5 of the end of the chapter questions of every reading that you've done so far. Okay, so what this will do is it will force you to solve questions on different topics on the same time, and your brain starts working better then because it gets used to that exam format. I hope you're understanding what I'm saying. What if there is a case study? Then maybe you just say that I'm going to solve case study number 1 from each of the 6 or 7 topics that I've done, right? So that's your horizontal revision. Then monthly tests. So as I discussed earlier, I would be giving you a schedule, and then there would be a monthly test assigned for each of the month with designated syllabus or curriculum. You prepare that, you take the test, right? So we can work together in partnership on that front. Make use of post-its. I have already discussed about that. Make use of voice memos. I love them. Let's say you're reading something. There's a concept. You think that you would want to revise that or remember that, and maybe read through it a few times. Simply record a quick voice memo, put that on your mobile phone, and then use it when you're commuting. Listen to it when you're doing something else. So it's a good revision. Plus, it's very personalized because you're revising what you need the most. Then full-time leaves. Now this is very early, but your exam is I think around mid of June next year. And what I would propose is that you start planning from now about how you're going to get that 3 weeks of leave, a full-time leave before the exams, right? So I propose at least 21 days of full-time leave, so that in those 21 days you can take a lot of mocks. We typically take 7 mocks here. So you take all the mocks, then you get a lot of time to drill through your weak areas. And of course, I understand that taking leaves is not easy, and 21 days is a lot of time, but we have almost 5-6 months to plan. So plan it in advance and figure out if there is a way you can give that opportunity to yourself. Remember that level 2 comes once a year, right? So if something goes wrong, then you're looking at 2020. Instead, just take that risk of 21 days and your life would be much more easier. Then the next step, and I think a very important one, is work on the concepts, not on the formulas. What I'm trying to say here is that the approach that might have worked at level 1 not necessarily will work at level 2. So at level 1, maybe you just memorize the formula of how do you calculate the value of a forward contract. Okay, so you kind of have a formula, you plug in the values, you get the answer. At level 2, the question could be much more application oriented, which will require you to know the concepts. Therefore, try to work on derivation or at least analytical solution to as many formulas as you can at level 2. Try not to memorize them, try to kind of approach them from a conceptual perspective. Then next step is, it's not a bad idea to learn financial modeling in this preparation cycle. Okay, so and especially financial modeling for equity valuation perspective. The reason why I'm saying this is I see a lot of synergy between financial modeling course per se and the level 2 curriculum, especially your FRA, corporate finance and equity. So if you haven't learned financial modeling, maybe this is a good time. You can just pick up an online course. We have a decent one, and then start understanding how revenue of a company is forecasted. Correct. So you actually see the revenue of a live company being forecasted, and then the same stuff gets repeated in your level 2 curriculum. So that's kind of a good way of learning things practically. Then ninth tip, find some study partners. There would be certain areas in level 2 curriculum where you would struggle. So you might struggle with, let's say, Black-Scholes formula. Some of you might struggle with fixed income, interest rate volatility forecasting models. So it's always a good idea to have someone with whom you can discuss and work on your concepts. Of course, I'm there. You would always be able to WhatsApp your questions to me. But a study partner makes a lot of difference, right? So see if you can find few friends along with you who are planning to study and schedule together. And finally, the last step, I have been running a broadcast list for all the Fintree students. On those WhatsApp broadcast list, I communicate in every week. That's where I kind of give you a benchmark on, or I give you information on what's happening in my classroom program so that you can plan your studies better and benchmark. Plus, I share a lot of tips and information. So, get in touch with admin once you've enrolled for the course. Get in touch with admin and ask them information or the code on how to get added to the broadcast list. Right, so this is what I had to say. I hope you find this video useful. If you have any questions, if you have any doubts, of course you can put them in the comments. I'll be happy to answer. I wish you all the best, guys. Level 2 curriculum is beautiful. I love chunks of it. Make sure you enjoy the entire preparation cycle. All right, so all the best, and I'll see you on the other side.